don't know if it's pressure as much as it is responsibility. Because, when we started on the first season, there was this element of like, I mean, as soon as I got the part, it was sort of like my first big thing, and then I found Mark McKinney was involved, and then it was Maury Chaykin who I was testing against, and of course I've been watching Maury for years and Mark for years, so there's that sort of, that was the pressure, was like, okay, there's a pressure to sort of raise yourself to this level of work.
Yeah.
And now that we've sort of risen to that already, there's now a responsibility to sort of like, because Maury was the person who watched over us. He sort of spoke for all the actors. He also watched over the show. I mean, he was one of he was credited as, I think, a creative consultant, I believe, on the show, as well as our matriarch. But yeah, so I don't know if it's a pressure, but it's definitely a responsibility. And as far as like awards and stuff changing attitude and stuff, not at all.
No.
To be honest, it's just like, cool, we're being recognized for what we do, but we're doing the exact same thing that we did before. If not, we're going harder. Yeah. I mean, it definitely it makes you go, cool. Now people are maybe going to watch, because we've struggled with our audience. We were on City, and then HBO, and it's like it's tough. There's time slot things that happen, and Bachelorette, I think, took us over on City TV, which was like, wow, we're really doing good. But so yeah, there's that sort of I think we all have a sense of responsibility with the show. I mean, it starts with the writing.
Yeah.
It starts from where that little seed that they sort of plant when we first sit down at our read through and we read this, and it's just like, man, we would be doing the words a disservice, and I would be doing Maury a disservice now if we weren't to keep up the caliber of work. I mean, I burnt myself out last year. I actually had clinical exhaustion. I spent almost a year. I took a year off after last season, and I spent almost like 6 months in bed. Yeah, doing nothing, and I had doctors trying to figure out what the hell was going on. It basically came down to too many late nights, which was like, getting your scripts late at night, and then there's changes that come in, and wanting to do a great job, because when you're acting opposite someone like Maury Chaykin, and you're working with someone like Mark, and you want to sort of keep that level up, and it's hard when you work like 12-13 hours a day, and then you come home, and then I'm also in my underwear a lot, so I have to be in the gym like 6 days a week, whether it's doing cardio or just like stretching or doing something. I got to be in there, so that takes up an hour of your day too. And then you come home and you work on your stuff, and you're in bed by maybe 3 or 4, and then your call is like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So yeah, that's the responsibility side of it, I think. Maury and I had a connection right off the top. I don't know if it was because I was playing his older son, but I definitely got his humor. You know what I mean? And he definitely screwed with me the most out of everyone in the beginning, and then kind of said, okay, you know what, you're all right, kid. And like kind of then he put me in on the jokes with everybody else, sort of thing. So I went out for a lot of dinners with Maury in the first season. I asked him a lot of questions because this was my first show, and I wasn't sure, like, if you have this is my first time playing a character consecutively over the course of X amount of seasons or whatever. But I was like, there's a director who's kind of making a character choice for me, and like, what do I do with that? And Maury had his ways of getting around that, and they're not always the best ways, but they're the ways that he came up with after being in it for however many years he was doing it for. He came up with his ways, and he was like a father to me. I lost a mentor and a father, for sure. So it was a big adjustment. He watched out for us. If there was something that wasn't going well, he just wouldn't stand for it on set. He was very aware. Or if anyone had any concerns, he was there with the producers, and he was mentioning it. You know what I mean? Just sort of like he didn't show up, but he had a huge heart. He had a huge heart. Well, in the first season, Josh comes back, and he's still basically in his mind on his show, his Thunder Bay OPP, which has been canceled for about 2 years. He's now officially run out of money. He comes back to see his parents and basically tries to scam 10 grand off of them to get to Los Angeles because he's that good. He just needs to get to LA. He's that good. Like, I'm that good, Dad.
Yeah.
Get me to LA. I'll prove it to you, So that's his first season. His first season is like, I'm putting up with this shit because I know at the end of the day I'm going to end up in Los Angeles and I'm going to be a huge celebrity. So, maybe I'll send some money back and provide for the family is sort of his attitude, a lot of bravado.
Yeah.
But second season, he realizes very quickly that it's not going to be happening overnight and he is going to have to stay. And if he is going to have to stay, it's going to be on his own terms a little bit, So I think that was his struggle in the second season, which is interesting because when you talk about struggles, I mean, the writing's brilliant. So you don't really have to think about it too much. If you just show up and, follow direction and say your lines, you probably will end up with a pretty decent arc over the course of the seasons anyways, because they've already thought about this stuff before we have. But it's really good to have a super objective coming in, I think, in your season to say, like, this is what I want. Because, I mean, I don't want to be playing, like, the same, like, like, sort of thing every single season. So you want growth in your character. I mean, you want the characteristics and the character to be the same, but I want growth in that. So because it makes it more exciting for me to play, because I don't want to be playing the same thing every scene. Oh, this is Josh with his girlfriend, now Josh with his brother. He's got to have some drive keeping him there. Why doesn't he just run away? Why doesn't he? So I gotta explain that to myself. So it's great when you pick a super objective that sometimes grinds a little bit with what their arc is. Now, it's a tough show to do that with because we're getting our scripts, maybe we're getting them a week before we shoot, but more than likely we're getting them about 3-4 days before we're actually shooting the episode. So it's really tough to go, and they don't even know. I mean, with what happened with Maury this season, they had to start from scratch again. They had all 13 written. They had to start from square one all over again. So it was really tough for them to know where the hell any of the characters are going. So I can't even sit down and say, where do you think Josh is going to go? So I just have to pick something that I think, and it's just like, well, I knew this season that, Maury had passed, so we were going to be addressing that in the first 3 episodes. So I knew that Josh becoming a man, now he's in Winnipeg and he's stuck here. He's still going to follow his dream, but he is going to take control and become the man of the house now. So what does that look like to Josh? What does that look like to Sheldon? What does that look like to Anne, the mother? You know what I mean? It's a lot different. Like what my idea, Josh, as a man, compared to what Anne believes or compared to what Aunt Clara believes is a man. So that's already going to cause a grind, which is great. And coincidentally, it's sort of basically written in this year anyways, that's his storyline. He becomes the man of the house. So I don't want him to mature too much.
Yeah.
Because he's fun. I have a lot of fun. I mean, I don't want him to end up getting married and having kids. But having said that, that is pretty funny.
Yeah.
What's Josh's idea of dad? What's he going to teach his kid? You know what I mean? I honestly, wherever they take me, I'm pretty good with it. We have our little sort of conundrums here and there.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of see it this way, and they're like, well, we kind of wrote it this way, and we sort of find our things in between there. But I'm pretty happy with what they give me, to be honest.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I don't think that Josh is a bad actor.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I actually think that, I mean, you don't book a TV show no matter how bad it is by being a bad actor. You still have to beat out a bunch of actors. I just think that he doesn't make great acting choices. I think that he's very good at committing. I mean, if he wasn't great at committing, he wouldn't be so good at being such an ass with his brother or, acting like a drug addict to try to prove to his mom that Sheldon's on drugs. You know what I mean? Like, he can do these things so well, so it wouldn't make sense that he would be a bad actor in real life. I just think that he makes terrible acting choices. I think that his maturity level isn't quite there. I think that he actually can commit to things like 120%, but he's just, so caught up on the bravado and the fame, you know, he really wants the fame, and like he walks around with a fake tan. I'm never this tan. Like my normal color is like bright white. You know what I mean? I have freckles. I'm fair. And Josh walks around with this like fake tan, which we established in the first season because I was like, look, he thinks he's in Hollywood. He looks at magazines and he dresses like the guys do in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not right for the weather, which is part of the joke. It's minus 50 out. He's wearing jeans, ripped, low V-neck, and a tiny little leather jacket. So, yeah, he wants the fame. He doesn't want to put in the work, and in his mind, he's already sort of hit that. The show for him, the Thunder Bay OPP, and his fan base.
Yeah.
You know, he already did like these like roles, and he's the man already. He just needs to get discovered somewhere else now.
Okay.
So that he can prove it to everybody else. It is tough sometimes because there's two things that are going on. When I pick up a script, I have to go like, you know, what is my objective in the scene? What do I want from the other character? Okay, what am I coming in with? You know, what's my expectation? You know, and then I have to add this other layer of like, okay, now I'm playing a character, and now how does this character react within the parameters of my objective, but also within the parameters of how the scene plays out, how they've written it. So yeah, to answer that question, but I mean, sitting around with my friends, you know, talking about this stuff, even when you're not going out for something as ridiculous as this character, you still do make like, you know, you're sitting with your friends and you're doing like a serious piece and you just start screwing around with it and you just go like, you know, you make it a little bit like over dramatic and it kind of makes it a little bit funny. You play around like that all the time. So I think it's sort of in there, and I think it's inherently in me as well because I have a little brother. You know, I grew up with a little brother. I grew up tormenting, and I grew up sort of as the class clown as well. Like, I didn't care about my grades. Sorry, kids. Sorry, parents. But I just didn't. I didn't care about my grades. I cared about laughing. I cared about everyone in the class laughing, and whether it meant I had to spend 45 minutes in the hallway. Like, my mom was mortified in elementary school when we went to Safeway and we were doing like a family shopping on a Sunday, and this like old Portuguese woman came up to me and she's like, "Oh, Benjamin, your son, he's so nice," and la 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 la, and walked away. And my mom was like, who is that? And I was like, "Oh, it's the janitor." You know what I mean? The janitor knows my name. That like we've had conversations in the hallway. Like, come on, that's bad. I spent a lot of time in the hall, but I graduated with flying colors. And yeah, I don't think it's that much of a stretch, to be honest. It's a facet of me.
Okay.
He's a very different character, but he's definitely a facet of me for sure. I love Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's always like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going back to Winnipeg in, you know, February, or I'll be back from Winnipeg." "Oh, you're in Winnipeg?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I love Winnipeg." I'm like, this city has, I mean, as cold as it is, and I wasn't born in this sort of climate. I was born in northern British Columbia, so I'm sort of used to a very mild climate. A little bit of snow, but maybe minus 10 at the most, you know. So for me to walk outside in minus 45 to do a scene in like a t-shirt and jeans and a leather jacket with like heat packs taped all over my body is something I'll probably never experience again in my life. But this city is so full of culture, and you will never ever work in another city that has crew like we do. We have crew that have worked together there's two crews, to my understanding, in the city. And we've worked, I think, sort of with both of them, but our crew has been our sort of main crew for the past 3 seasons now. But they've known, like, some of them, those guys grew up together, man. They've known each other for like 25, 30 years. Their wives go out to dinners together. Their kids have birthday parties together. It's like, the energy on that set is so great compared to when you're working in a big city where they're bringing in day players here and there. Like, this guy's in here for 5 days. This guy's in here. People are yelling because they can't control anything. Like, everyone's just like, you know, if you ask them to quiet down, they quiet down because he knows the wife and they've been at the dinner party before.
Yeah.
But, you know, past that, Winnipeg is I think it's beautiful. I wish we could do a season here in the summertime. Everyone keeps talking about how great it is in the summertime, and I keep missing it. I personally love working in the city because I lock myself in my hotel room. It's too cold. I don't go out and do anything except for on the weekends. Then I get to experience, like I can go to the ballet or the opera. Just the nightlife here is great too. It's hard to find, but it's great. I mean, there's so much live music venues, stand-up comedy. I've been watching a ton of stand-up in the city. Yeah, I got nothing bad to say about Winnipeg, man.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of people have like a cringe on their face, but you know what? All my friends who have shot here,
Yeah.
they come away going, "Yeah, Winnipeg's awesome." Like I'm starting to love it. Actually, Wendell and I talked about that last season. We were like, she's like, "We can't love Winnipeg because then we're gonna end up wanting to buy a place here." And like last season, we were like, maybe we should just start looking. We should start looking and see if there's like a couple lofts. You know what I mean? And we quickly kiboshed the idea. But I mean, now here we are in our third season, and it's like we're maybe going into our fourth, hopefully. And it's kind of like, man, maybe we should have done something like that.